So welcome back to my channel. We're going to do some grasses today. I'm sorry I missed you last week. I'm the president of the Tennessee Artists Association this year, and we are getting ready for our big juried show, and there is just so much to do that I just did not have time to make a video this week for meetings and everything. So these are the brushes I'm going to use. This is number 8. Is that an 8 round? Yeah, number 8 round. Number 0 fan. Number 0 liner, and this is 1/4. I guess that means a quarter, but that doesn't really help. I don't understand what that's supposed to mean. We're just going to practice a little bit of grass. For those of you that are newbies to watercolor, or maybe you just need a refresher on how to easily represent grass in a landscape, I thought it'd be nice to do a little review for you. So that's what we're going to do today. So let's get to it. I've got my basic beginner palette here that I use for my students. I will start with this little fan brush. And let's see what this thing can do as far as representing grass simply and easily. I'm barely touching. If you touch too heavily, you're going to lose it. The control of what it looks like. I went up and it looks better than going down, but I wanted to show you both ways. This one, as I said, because it's not broken up, you're getting more of a uniform pattern, I guess you could say, because it is really filling in the whole space. But towards the top, you can see that that is most definitely grass. You see what I'm saying? And then you can take a second color, as I would, and put it down here below in the shadow part, and maybe the occasional part of the grass. So that's one way to represent a little bunch of grass. And that was using this little fan brush. It's about the smallest one I could find. They have this thing, which is called a ridge brush. And I've not found a whole lot of uses for this. And as far as for grass, I'm going to change the color of this grass just a little bit so that we can show you different ways, different colors of painting it. But if rather than going straight up and down, you turn it to its side just a little bit, you're going to get a much looser. See the difference between going straight up and down with it versus I have it a little bit at an angle here, about a 60-degree angle, I guess that is. And see how it just much more naturally makes grass for you, but without great effort. You know, I'm not sitting here trying to paint out each little piece of grass. I'm just really it's wrist movement. Not even wrist, really. It's just my fingers moving. And then if it were me, I would come along the bottom and sort of flatten that out a little bit to make it appear more natural. And again, you can come in with a slightly darker color to add some contrast. You do need some contrast in it to make it look more natural. You can add a different color of grass. That's my Perylene. I love Perylene green. I think it's the coolest color. I don't know what it is that Perylene does for me, but it does it. I just like the way it looks. So anyway, I'm going to go back to the light because I got a little too much of the dark in there. Just finish off with some lights up top. Again, this looks very loose, but it looks it's obviously a little bunch of grass, right? Now let's say you have a whole field of grass. You're not just trying to do a little bunch. So in that case, what I would do is I would you start with your lighter colors always, right? So you can fill in the whole area if you want, and then come back to it when it starts drying a little bit. You can add now the darker color a little bit. Putting a little sap green on our yellow. This is a field, or not a field, but a lawn. Let's say it's a lawn of grass, right? And so we're just adding a little extra color. Okay, I'm using that on its side for some of this. It doesn't have to, but I like the way it breaks up when I do that. Okay, then you take your smaller brush. It can be your fan or your, it can be either one of these. And then towards the top of that, oops, wrong color. Towards the top of that, you just put your little, the fan might be better for this. Hints at the top of the grass. And then occasionally throughout. Just sort of putting that little inkling of some grass shapes here and there. And the rest of it's just color. That is quite clearly a field of grass. But we didn't sit and paint every single blade. We just sort of hinted at it a little bit. And that worked well. You can do, let's see here. Let's do another little field over here. This one we're just going to lay on its side. We're not going to give it any detail. Sorry if you hear my dogs. They are just very playful today. They're just running around and barking at each other and chasing toys. And they're just being noisy. As you get further towards the front, it's a little greener, maybe a little brighter. I'm using the side of my brush so as to break it up. Okay? Maybe even a little darker up towards the very, very front. Okay, so you got a gradient going. And down at the very back, maybe it's even more watered down. Very light back there. So there's not even any grass detail at all. It's quite obvious that that is a field of grass. So next you could, where's that rigger? Okay, let's grab the rigger. And actually I'm going to put away the rigger for just a second because I want to use, this is my little fine tip applicator if it's not stopped up, which happens a lot. Oh good, it's not stopped up, but it does seem watery. Okay, there we go. I'm going to just do a couple of lines with this masking fluid just to give the impression of grass. Maybe wheat. That's why I did that one. It's not coming out. Test it over there. It's not always perfect. Sometimes it turns to the side, right? Okay, we're going to let that dry for a minute. This little thing is wonderful for fine detail. It has that little needle thing that goes inside and keeps it, supposed to keep it clear. And it does a pretty good job. I've had that thing for like 2 years. I just refill it from time to time. I'll buy one of these drawing gums, Frisket, And I usually put it in here and use it, but for really fine lines, I like this fine line applicator. And I just refill it from here into here whenever I am running low. So we're going to let that dry for just another minute. And then from last week's lesson, we talked about how to make things look farther away. So I do want to go over that ever so slightly right here, because we're doing all this and I'm not showing you how to make it look farther away. So if I was doing this field right here where that back there was way off in the background, I would take a little bit of my violet and mix it in with that yellow way back there to send it back. And that sort of makes it dissolve into your background. You can also do just single little bunches while that's drying out. We will practice those. Just occasional little bunch here and there of grass. I always try to have 2 or 3 colors just to make it look realistic. So that's why you see me doing various colors. Just a little bunch. Move your pen around. Just use your fingers. See I'm not doing that. Move your pen around. You just want several little bunches. These are close up front. If we were getting back in the distance, you wouldn't want them this detailed or this large, because obviously the front grasses that are right close to you are really big, and then as you get a little further, they're shorter. As you get a little further, you can't hardly define them because they're so much shorter. So just keep that in mind when you're painting. If you have a huge field of grass and you paint all of the grass the same length through the whole field, it's going to look squirrely, so to speak, because grass sort of gets shorter and shorter. The way your eyes see it, it looks shorter and shorter, even though it's really not. And then you don't even see the detail in the grass. It just looks like green, right? Because it's all blended together. So that's what you want to try to emulate if you're going for realistic painting, which is typically what I'm teaching in my classes. I teach a more realistic way of painting as opposed to really, really super detailed. My masking is dry. So I'm going to come in here. Let's say that there is some different colors in this one instead of just everything being the same colors. Let's see here. Okay. You'll see where I'm going here in a minute. Add some darker colors. Maybe not that dark, but I just want these things that I'm put in there to be more visible, which means we need some darker colors in order to see those show up. You see how I'm varying my tools in this one. I'm using several different tools. I want some of these to look like single big blades of grass. To go with the ones that we're going to erase and with our masking and show in the background. I want a few of those to be colored, and then the others that we put in, maybe the sunlight is hitting them and they're just brighter. And again, towards the bottom, we need a little bit of probably texture where Maybe there's some dirt or something. So you can do that. Okay, now we're going to let that dry for a little bit. Except I do want to splatter a little bit. Can I do that with this one? Probably going to be better with that one. Okay, so. Okay, a little bit of splatter. Sometimes it's just nice to add some texture to what you're doing. I didn't really do anything there. It's all over my finger, but I don't see it on my paper. There we go. Lemon yellow. Sometimes against the green, you can't see it real clearly, but you'll be able to see it in a minute. Lemon yellow will displace other colors. I'll show you what I mean. If I have this green right here, and I put lemon yellow over it while it's still wet, it will displace the dark green. Whereas normally you couldn't paint on top of a darker color with something lighter, but lemon yellow will displace the color underneath it as long as it's wet. And however pure or you want that line to be, you just don't water down your paint as much. If you don't want it to dissolve into the background too much, just don't water down your paint very much. Once it's dry, it doesn't work. It's got to be wet. Okay, let's let that dry for a minute. Okay, so now this is, well, it's not perfectly dry, but it's close enough probably. We're going to remove our masking. This is a nice way to make grasses and just have some highlights in your grass. There. Now what I would do is I would come back in here and probably add just a little bit of color to the bottom half of these or one side of these or something so that it is, the white is the part that's getting hit by the sunlight. You don't have to do this, but I would probably do it a little bit. It adds a little bit of contrast next to the white as well. And see how nice that looks? You can also add a little extra splattering if you like. See if that brush does that better. There. Well, thank you very much for joining me for this little grass tutorial. I hope that you enjoyed it and that it was helpful in reviewing or overseeing or learning how to do some grass. And please come back next week. I look forward to painting with you all. And as always, please like and subscribe and share with anybody that might be interested in watercolors. And if you write comments, I try to answer them all. I really appreciate you watching with me today. And as always, keep on painting.